I think everyone, we all want to thank Larew for hosting in this amazing space. Spaces, I should say. And I assume that they are fully responsible as well for this beautiful day. My name is Hiram. I drove down from just south of Annapolis and the drive was so scenic. It was hard to almost come because I was stopping so often to take a listen. I've known Denise and Larew for years. We met in D.C. When they were, where were you all living? I've always lived in Maryland. Northern Virginia. And got to know both of them and their talents, their multi-talented family. And then when they moved down here, I'm not sure that I was a first visitor, but I was one of the first visitors who came down and saw the place was just a house, with just a house with the vaulted ceiling, cathedral ceiling was built, and we had a reading in there, which was wonderful. The acoustics, it's kind of like you were in a chapel or a church. It was great. But I've not seen any of this development, so this is really wonderful. You've gone to all this length and invited the arts community in. So before I start reading, I wanted to just mention a couple of initiatives that I've been involved with that might be of interest to you folks. I have a background in food security. I worked for the U.S. government all of my career. I'm retired now. On international hunger programs, but I became as interested in U.S. hunger as I was professionally in international hunger overseas. And all that time I was writing poetry. When I retired, I was invited to give some remarks to students about poetry of hunger. And I had never, ever combined those two worlds. And in order to do my homework, to get ready to speak with the students, I went out and looked on the web for poetry about hunger, and much to my surprise, while there is some, there's not a great deal. Now, when I say poetry of hunger, I'm not talking about poetry of hunger of the soul, or hunger of the spirit, or hunger of the heart. There's a lot of poetry about all of this. I'm talking about hunger of the stomach. And I just couldn't find very much. There was some, but not much. And so I thought, well, maybe one thing I could do was to rouse poets to speak up and speak back to hunger. And fast forward, with help from the United Nations, what's called the Food and Agricultural Organization, and the Maryland State Arts Council, and the Capital Area Food Bank, which is unfortunately a huge, it's wonderful that it's there, it's unfortunate that it has to be there, but the Capital Area Food Bank is a huge facility just on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. that serves the greater D.C. area. With their help, all of those partners combined, we now have a website called Poetry X, the letter X, Hunger, all one phrase, poetryxhunger.com, that has about 250 poems from poets all over the world. We have poets from Zimbabwe, poets from Ireland, Australia, Canada, of course the U.S. Incredibly moving poems, many of which, all of them are available in text form on the website, but many of them are also available as recordings, video or other recordings. We just released an e-collection of some of those poems to make it easy for potential users to find and use poems, because we didn't want poems just to be written and sit on a shelf, or in this case on a website. We wanted them to be used, and they are being used now by houses of worship, classrooms, anti-hunger organizations are using them as openings to their meetings or closings. All sorts of different folks are beginning to pick up and use the poems as a way of reaching out and grabbing people's hearts. But my contention is we need all the science, we need all the data, we need all the trend lines, everything to tell us, describe hunger to us, and help us understand it. But if we don't have tools that reach people's hearts and can rouse people to action, like poetry can, then we're missing a key tool in the toolkit. So, if you're at all interested, check out poetryxhunger.com. We just had a wonderful program online where we had hunger experts talking about the power of poetry in their work. And then we had several of the poets reading or presenting their work, again, from all over the world. The second initiative is one that is near and dear as well. Three African American poets in the area, where I live, and I have worked together to put together a program called Voices of Woodlawn. Woodlawn is an historic plantation that was built back in the 1700s on property owned by George Washington. You can see Mount Vernon from Woodlawn. It was inhabited by 9 whites, served by 90 slaves. And the story of these slaves, 9 slaves. In fact, the most recent information that we've gotten is that there were probably many more than that, but at least 90 slaves. And their story, the slave community's story, is basically unknown, untold at Woodlawn. And so we have visited that estate. The 3 poets and I have visited the estate and written about it. And one of the poets is like Larew. She not only writes poetry, but she also is a painter, and so she's painted from the experience as well. And then we collaborated with a harmonicist, Clip Renee, Clip, I think. So he adds a musical dimension. Anyway, we have a program called Voices of Woodlawn that was presented all over the DC area. We're going to take it to the West Coast. That's one of the beauties, the silver linings of the pandemic. You can get online and go across state boundaries and even national boundaries without a passport. And, so we're going to have the program presented on the West Coast here for too much longer. But it's I know I'm biased, but I think it's a pretty moving story, particularly the poems written by alive or in celebration of that wonderful magical period called adolescence. And it first appeared in a journal called North of Oxford. It's titled Tin Roof. When I was 17, apples were bushelled in baskets, and I was the straw under all of those red brown spirits. All the light coming in through the shed's plank was slanted across them, and every wasp in the world hovered just above them. Yes, whatever apples were, I wanted to be. And in a way, when I was 17, apples ate me. What was to become my heart was really some wild, weedy patch in the orchard back then. And any sheen reflecting off their skins or the barn's tin roof was all that I wanted to be. When I was 17, with every seed buried deep inside, even my gangly gaze was humming. And somehow, I knew before tasting anything tartly sweet that that was what I wanted to be right there in the baskets. This next piece is memory mixed with, with a bit of love. There's mention of Johnny Appleseed in it. And he was, as you folks undoubtedly know, the almost mythic, but actually he was real. He lived appeared in West Trade Review. It's titled Losing Birthdays. One of my grandmothers grew deep red geraniums on her front porch for everyone strolling by in the summer to admire. My other grandmother trained a rose bush of palest pinks and heavenly scent up over her back door. I was lost. And so there is how just now these fields of sunrise forget such birthdays, while blackbirds pick and pick and ticks climb up. What good am I at taking such things inside, these deepest loves and smallest sounds? And I've been told that wherever he went, my imaginary uncle caused people to shyly grin. He was strange, they all said, but people loved him anyway for his dreamy ways. He was just like Johnny Appleseed, who I still believe dropped barefoot seeds on every spot that could be found, poor or steep, year by year, from here to then. She was born inside out, the size of a heavy orange. And the story goes that she was wobbly from the very start. Even as a little girl, she was so smart and so damn dumb together. That's the way sometimes. Well, wouldn't you know it? Dead solved the problem. The full story isn't important. But what is that at about 19 or so, she fell jaw-drop in love with someone who just wouldn't, couldn't, and didn't. Someone like too close to a fire. Yes, with those kind of eyes. And the thing was, there was no wanting her at all, not any. And oh my goodness, the rumors were rich enough to live on. But here's the thing, really. She ended up like a tree toppled over, with all her roots up in the air. Hers was a big sideways life that just never really got started. And of course, she's gone now, but is wholly famous. That's what starting out with too many wants will do in an all or nothing sort of way. So, the lingering question is this. Is it truly best to leave nature alone, or to invite it in for a chat over dinner? Smart little roads curve like sound and dip as if lifting to bow whenever all thoughts round or cluster, or when hearts call down, is irony. And as rich when poor was, or as wise as bare heads in snow ever seen, and his twigs so frail broke into song, and as true as any blight or potato could be was Ireland. So when sand laps the senses, or salt drips the edges of dreams, whenever hope streams through such avenues, and moss comes home, or hearts beam down, is Ireland. That's my love song for Ireland. Like windows do, or doors beyond, this reaching sky, these trees of all that's gone or coming to, and rounded beams. I fly as how open is, and porches swing up to towards, each rhyme undone, to tell of filled and full where blue is now. I fly this if, but also more, where clouds love rakes, or fields are curled, to forever wear, or halos flame my scattered verses, this day that rings. Thank you all.